Welcome back to Jennifer Broussard Art. Today's field trip is to Burano, an island in Venice that is known for the colorful buildings. Let's simplify this photo and use some fun colors to paint this home. Let's get started. Today I'm going to use the New York Central Art Supply 100% cotton watercolor block in size 8x8. It's cold pressed, and I have the outline very simplified and already traced onto my paper. And for the laundry, I didn't trace it. I just went ahead and took tape and ripped it and put it on so that it would look like bunched up clothing hanging on the line. I took out a lot of detail that's in this photo. I took out the shelf up here. I took out the laundry. I took out the stick right here and a lot of details out of the window. I did leave the little mailbox, and I think I might add in the little bit of lattice. We'll see. But I wanted to make it just simple and fun. I got out a palette that I don't use very often. This is Holbein. These are Holbein paints, and I am using alizarin crimson, vermilion hue, yellow ochre, pyrrole yellow light, maybe, permanent green, viridian, cobalt blue, Prussian blue, burnt sienna, burnt umber, ivory black, horizon blue, Jaune Brilliant number 2, and I added some opera. Burano is a little island in Venice, Italy, in the north, and it's known for its lacework and its colorful buildings. And I just thought this would be really fun to play with color. So I'm going to get some opera. It is a fugitive color. I'm going to mix a little bit of, I think, cobalt blue with that and get a really vibrant, pretty purple. Look at how pretty that is. And a little bit more blue, maybe a little more. I'm going to use this color to paint the whole house right over the tape. This makes everything so simple and fun. Let's let it dry, and then we'll do some more to the window and the door. I did the drawing before I had the laundry in place, and this laundry isn't going as far down as I thought it would, so I'm just going to add in those lines. Okay, I went off the corner here a little bit, but that's okay. So, and especially if I put a darker color on that little shutter, it'll be fine. Let's work on the window. I'm going to fill in this part, and I'm just going to put a little bit of blue sky reflecting. That's another way to simplify. I don't want to have this be, really defined details and reflections, but I do want it to look like a window. So I'm going to get some horizon blue. I'm going to put a little more. Same with this side. I'm going to add just a little bit of the house color. As reflection. And I'm going to leave that as it is. Now let's go over to the door. I'm going to get some yellow ochre. And I'm going to wet the door, not the white door frame, just the whole door. Down to here. Now this looks like it's a window pane, this really tall, skinny window. This right here. So I'm gonna wet around that. I'm gonna add some of the yellow ochre. I'm going to make a dark green, get some permanent green. I'm going to add some blue to that, cobalt blue. That's a really pretty green. I like that, I think, a little better than the forest green. I am going to add, though, I just want to knock it down a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit of alizarin crimson. Okay. Now I can go right over that little spot that had pink on it, and now it has green on it. I'm going to add this green in here too, right next to the window pane. It isn't going to stay green, but that's going to be our base layer. And I'm going to come down to there. And then this is sort of yellow. And oh, I went too high. I'm going to put this up here. I'm going to extend the shutter because I went too high. That's supposed to be white. And so I want them to be the same height. So then this can just be white. Okay. I'm going to get a little bit of the purple in with the green and darken it a little bit. Now it's a pretty gray, like a gray green. And I'm going to put it in here. And then right down here, leaving a white space in the middle. And then here, same thing at the top. Leaving a little space here for the yellow, and then I'm going to do it again right there. So just 4 little stripes. Now I'm going to take this grayish color and put it in here. You see more of this inside window pane than we see this because maybe the photographer isn't right here. Maybe the photographer is over here. And they can see more of that. So this line is going to be skinnier. I'm going to get some Jaune Brilliant. Just use your favorite colors. You don't have to use the same ones I'm using. And I'm going to fill in the mailbox. It looks a lot like that, doesn't it? It's a lot like Yellow Ochre. I'm going to take a little bit off. There. And I think it's time for me to dry. Okay, I'm going to actually add some lighter value gray to this. I'm going to switch to a number 4 brush so we can work on the door. I want to get, I think this is burnt sienna. It's okay if it mixes with what's already on there, it won't matter. And I'm going to put this burnt sienna let's see, let's put, I'll put it around the little square that's in the middle. We're still at the fill it in stage. We are going to make it look like it has depth. I'm going to take a paper towel and sort of just dab some of that off so it has a little bit of texture. And I'm going to get this burnt sienna and come down to this step. Okay, now this is actually white, these two side trim pieces, and this is sort of a dull gray color. Okay, so I wet this, all of this except for the two side trim pieces. I'm going to take a little bit of that gray from that puddle that we made earlier and fill this in. It does have enough value that this white does show up. I'm going to get out my heated eraser and see if I can get some of these lines off. I'm going to try it inside that window. There, yeah, that looks good. So let's now do some, I think there's another panel. There's another panel inside this panel. So to get out your pencil and draw a square. I'm going to get just a lighter value and maybe change the tone a little bit. I'm going to add some of this ivory black. It's a little bit darker brown now. And I'm going to go inside here and leave the littler square dry. I'm going to get some burnt umber and see how that consistency is thicker than this watery consistency. I'm going to come around the outside of this in some spots while it's wet and let the water mix it. I'm not going to fiddle with it or try to fix it. Okay, I'm going to do a little black in that. And I'm going to use a number 2 and do the same thing around the edge of the window. And I want to put a little more yellow ochre. Now when that's dry, I'll add a final dark layer around, like to give these some depth. Okay. And this has a little bit of pink on it, just right here. And it has a little bit of black. I'm just going to take black. Ignore the rules today. We can just use black. And then there's a little slot here for mail maybe, and a line and another little slot. And now I'm going to get some of the pink and make it a different tone. And I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow around it. And soften, soften. That didn't really work. There. Now down here, don't like how that's drying. Down here, we can just add a little bit of shadow. Using my number 2 again, I'm going to put a little shadow up here. And then a little shadow here. And I'm going to soften that. And then a little shadow here. This little piece is where your foot goes when you're walking on the step. I'm going to get a little blue. Put some irregular lines there. Fill it in. I'm going to get a bigger brush. I'm going to get my number 10 again and use some of this gray, this green gray. I'm going to add a little more purple to it. So that means pink and blue. And just like that, we have a gray. And I'm going to come down here and do a gray sidewalk. I'm going to add a little black to this gray because it's not quite different enough. There. I'm going to make it a little less regular. Maybe just soften it. I want to get some of this gray and put it in this window. It's a little darker at the bottom. I want to work on all of these little corners and stuff. Okay, so this has slightly darker value line around the first square, and then it also has lines coming in diagonally. And I'm going to do the same thing to the outside square. I'm going to do the diagonal lines. They might even have a little lip. And now I want to add a little gray to there. We need a little more variation in color on the wood. There's definitely more gray up here. There's a lot in here. That can be darker. I'm going to put a little bit of blue in this window, just like in this window. Now I'm going to, since this is a little bit damp, I'm going to put like a little bit of wood grain effect on there. While we're waiting for this to dry, we can mix up the dark color for the detail on the shutters. I'm going to add a little blue to this gray, black, to make it like a Payne's gray, a little bit more. I'm going to do the same thing up here, add a little Jaune Brilliant to this, and then a little bit of dry brush on here. Okay, for the wood grain, I'm just going to wiggle my brush up and down on those panels, and then I'm going to take this dark black color and I'm going to go, still not right, I need to dry it. Okay, now I'm ready. I'm going to do on the edge of this raised panel a little bit of black or gray that we made, and I'm going to soften it all around the raised panel. So a little more shadow in this second level. So I just added it there. I'm going to take some of this and put it here. Soften it. I'm going to get a little more of the paint of the burnt sienna and add it here. This also needs a little more. The more layers you put on, the more weathered it'll look. So be patient and keep adding those layers on. This is a shadow right here. I get some of the burnt sienna and add it to that. I don't really want it to be a gray shadow. I just want it to be a darker brown shadow. And then inside here we have some more shadow. I mean, you could spend hours doing shadows on this door. Do just a little. That's too much. I'm going to do a little bit of shadow on the door's trim. Just a very, very light value. It's still brighter than the step. Actually, I want to add a little bit of this Jaune Brilliant to the step and some of the gray. And then I want to add a little shadow behind this shutter. I'm going to wet the line, and I'm going to add some of the opera to this color and add it right here. See how quickly that dried? And I'm going to add a little more dark right up next to the shutter. Look how that gave that so much more depth. I'm going to add a little bit here. Soften that. That looks really good. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Get a little bit darker and go right up next to the shutter. I'm going to soften that. I'm going to take some of this down here. There's just something off about these windows. I think they're just too bright. I'm going to wet them, and I'm going to put some of this grayish purple up and down inside this window to mimic a curtain. This one has some stuff in it too. It has some reflections, I think, from the laundry, but I'm not gonna, or maybe there's something in the window that's got stripes on it. I'm not gonna put the stripey thing on there. I'm gonna do the same thing to this one, but lighter. Now I have a little bit thicker, and I'm just gonna make some folds in the curtains. There. Are we ready to take the laundry off? I know I am. I'm going to do like a light blue. I think I'll just take a little bit of this Prussian blue. I'm going to do a light blue shirt. And first I'm just going to fill them in. I want this one to be like some work pants or something. That could have been a towel. I'm going to lighten this. This could be like a kitchen towel. And then this is going to be, I think, yellow. Put some of this yellow. Let's do purple. I do not have a purple, so I'm going to get some blue and add some alizarin crimson. And this is like a tank top. Halter top. Let's do a red. I don't love that alizarin crimson. I'm going to get some of this vermilion hue. I don't really know what this is. And that's okay. This is going to be another tank top. Let's see, let's do blue. I think I might make that one striped. This can be orange. Ooh, that's pretty. I think these can be jeans. So I'm going to get some of this blue. And then these can be shorts. Let's make those green. Goes with the shutters. Okay, I'm going to go right back through the laundry and I'm going to add shadows and details. I'm going to get this little bit of a gray that I have here and add some wrinkles. And I'm going to add like a neckline right there and a cuff, another cuff. I'm going to add a wrinkle. Okay, let's go on to this one. This is a towel. So let's do like a plaid pattern. I got some orange. Put on some stripes. Get some purple. I'm gonna let that dry and then okay, the yellow I think is a dress. I think I'll put some little sunflowers on it. Let's get this burnt sienna. Let's make some little centers for the sunflowers. I'm gonna make like a half moon one. We'll come back to that, but let's do a collar. I'm gonna get some yellow. And I'm gonna make some little wrinkles. This can be a halter top. And I think we need some color on that. It's pretty dull. Maybe some horizon blue. I'm picking an opaque color on purpose so that I can add some interesting designs on it. Like that. No idea what that shape could be. Maybe it's just a towel. So let's add a little bit of purple. I think we'll just do like a wrinkle right there. I'm going to put some little purple little stars on it, or flowers. This orange thing, I guess, could be a cleaning rag. I have no rhyme or reason. I'm just putting on stripes and stuff. Let's put this wrinkle. I'm just trying to make wrinkles. Okay, now these I know are jeans. So let's get a little more blue. Add a little gray to it. And we know that jeans have a waistband and maybe some pockets. And then they have wrinkles and a hem. Must be folded back or something right there. I want that color. Maybe some of this purple can go into this. Oh, that's a good denim color. Now, while everything's drying, I think I'm going to go ahead and do the line. Let's get some black. I'm going to have the line come between the clothes, because usually your laundry is draped over or just clipped to the line. And so you wouldn't normally see the line behind the clothes. So let's get an even darker color and do the little clips. Although those clips are not dark. Let's use any opaque paint you have. You can even get out your bleed-proof white. Which I might still do. And just add some clips onto each piece of fabric. Jeans might need 3. Okay, I'm going to get out my bleed-proof white. There, that looks a little better. Mixing in with that little bit of color, and they look like wooden clothespins. I'm going to use the white on these little flowers. Where else? Isn't that pretty? I'm going to take that. Let's do the rest of the little sunflower. Get some of this yellow. I'm going to add a little orange. I added a little bit of this to the yellow. Okay, let's do some little and now this one I'm going to put a little bit of white. Skipping every now and then. I don't love what's happening to these shorts. Now, if you were me, where would you put the very, very dark? This is all medium value. It's all cute and it's nice, but it needs to have a dark. I think it's these. I think this needs to have dark right next to this light colored thing. And so I'm going to work on making this have more contrast. Okay, I'm going to get some of this Prussian blue. That's not Prussian blue. What is that? That's Viridian. Isn't that pretty? Get out the paints you don't use, you guys. I'm going to add this to the shutters. I'm just going to glaze over, get a little more water, and glaze over these, brighten them up. I totally thought I was getting Prussian blue. Prussian blue is that one. I think the brown underneath here needs to be darker. I know it's not brown in the reference photo, but I'm just going to make it brown so that I can increase the contrast. I'm going to actually put this on this side too. I want them to match. So if you don't have Viridian, this doesn't look like Viridian to me. It's the same color, but it's not weak like a regular Viridian would be. If you have like phthalo green, that would work. You could use phthalo blue. I am going to add a little bit more black. I'm going to add some Prussian blue to that. And it's pretty concentrated. I'm going to add just a little bit of this to the door frame. It seems like the shadows on the door are pretty diffuse. We have to create them ourselves. So I'm going to add some here, and I want to soften some of it. There's more. I'm just looking at the door now and thinking, where are the shadows? And just adding some lines where there are more shadows. I'm going to darken this. I'm going to get some more burnt sienna. Darken this a little. This whole area right here has more shadow. And then this right here has more shadow. So the rest of it, I'm going to add just burnt sienna. So now we have a bunch of layers on that door and it looks nice and old. To finish up, I think we need a few shadows behind the laundry. So let's get some more opera. I'm going to put it over here and I'm just going to make a little bit darker version of opera. And I'm going to put it like right behind some of these things of fabric. And I'm going to soften. That's probably not the best shadow. It's way too big. So I'll just blend it in. This actually kind of looks like a shadow already. So let's try again on a different piece. Let's get, that looks like a shadow. And that looks like a shadow. How about right there? There. That looks like it's a back, like away from the wall. Let's try this one. I'm going to soften that. We're doing the same thing we did over here. Actually, I want to make that just a little more. That's even better. Okay, let's continue with the laundry. Let's put a shadow here. Soften it. Kind of like this with the shadows. I'm going to bring that shadow down to the window. No, I'm not. Because the shadow on the window is going to be a different color. And then finally, this one. I think this needs a shadow. This trim piece. I'll do it in sections. Get a little bit of the dark in with the opera. And put it right up next to the trim. I'll just keep going and then I'll just soften this side, this end. There. Let's do the same thing over here. And all these layers drying, it makes the stucco have more texture. I'm going to go a little higher because that looks like I drew a line on it, which is exactly what I did, but I don't want that in a painting. So just mess it up a little bit. There. I want to do something to this sidewalk. I want to make it, I think I want to make it a little darker. I don't like that it's two-toned. So I'm going to get some of this and I'm going to darken this up, like make it all one color somehow with a little bit of that purpley color showing through. That looks a little more uniform now. I'm going to soften this side. I'm going to just do these again. I'm just going to put some clear water here on this little bit of foreground. Muck it up a little bit. And then I also want to use the eradicator brush on these a little bit. It's going to be pretty easy to do on this paper. It might be also pretty easy to do on arches. A little bit of glare. Do you see how you could just go on and on? I'm going to add a little bit of highlight to this window here. This was really fun for me. I really enjoyed using the tape to make different articles of clothing, and also making the very bright building in Burano, Venice, Italy. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video.